Imagine yourself on a field trip, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that your parents let you experience. And yet, a sudden thunderstorm struck. What a coincidence! Making matters worse, your school bus malfunctioned while it was in the middle of the road, traveling across a wide plain of rice fields. And some of your classmates saw a nipa hut and a mango tree near the place you were struck. And since you listened very well to your physics teacher, you know that it's safer inside the bus while waiting for help. But the problem is how you will convince your classmates to agree with you. If you have the same situation or are curious about the physics behind the scenario, this video will surely be beneficial to you. So keep on watching. Convincing your classmates to stay inside the bus during a thunderstorm will be challenging for you, but with the help of the following step in physics, everyone will definitely agree with you. The first thing you should do is remain as calm as possible, so that you can assess the situation and recall all the things you needed for you to explain to your classmates the best action that you all needed to follow in a more interactive way. The second thing is to get their attention. Explaining why and how it comes that staying inside the bus is safer with all the physics and information that you could possibly say will be nothing if no one is paying attention to you. That's why you should think of the best way for you to get their attention in the fastest way possible based on how you know them. Like,
Oh my God, what should we do?
What's happening? I'm scared! Attention, everyone!
once you get everyone's attention, you should first present your preferred choices directly. In this way, everyone will be curious about how you came up with that kind of conclusion, and you can use their curiosity to your advantage.
Guys, I think it is safer to stay inside the bus. And here is why. So please, hear me out. First, it is because of the Faraday cage concept. Because in the Faraday cage concept, a conductive metal container blocks any electrostatic charges or even certain types of electromagnetic radiation and distributes them around the exterior of the cage.
Wait! Can you please try to explain it in a more detailed way?
So, the indicator of any lightning is the polarization of positive and negative charges within a storm cloud, wherein the tops of the storm clouds are known to acquire an excess of positive charge and the bottoms of the storm clouds acquire an excess of negative charge. To further understand, let's talk about the two mechanisms that seem important to the polarization process. One mechanism involves a separation of charge by a process that bears resemblance to frictional charging. Clouds are known to contain countless millions of suspended water droplets and ice particles moving and whirling about in turbulent fashion. Additionally, water from the ground evaporates, rises upward and forms clusters of droplets as it approaches a cloud. This upwardly rising moisture collides with water droplets within the clouds, and in the process of collisions, electrons are ripped off the rising droplets, causing a separation of negative electrons from a positively charged water droplet or a cluster of droplets. Meanwhile, the second mechanism that contributes to the polarization of a storm cloud involves a freezing process. Rising moisture encounters cooler temperatures at higher altitudes. These cooler temperatures cause the cluster of water droplets to undergo freezing. The frozen particles tend to cluster more tightly together and form the central regions of the cluster of droplets. The frozen portion of the cluster of rising moisture becomes negatively charged and the outer droplets acquire positive charge. Air currents within the clouds can rip the outer portions of the clusters and carry them upward toward the top of the clouds. The frozen portion of the droplets with their negative charge tends to gravitate towards the bottom of the storm clouds. Thus, the clouds become further polarized.
So in the end of the process, a storm cloud becomes polarized with positive charges carried to the upper portions of the clouds and negative portions gravitating towards the bottom of the clouds, right?
In what way?
Because the cloud's electric field stretches through the space surrounding it and induces movement of electrons upon Earth. That's why electrons on Earth's outer surface are repelled by the negatively charged cloud's bottom surface, and this creates an opposite charge on the Earth's surface. Buildings, trees, And even people can experience a buildup of static charge as electrons are repelled by the cloud's bottom.
I see. And this scenario forms an image wherein the bottom of the clouds has negatively charged particles, while the Earth's surface has positively charged particles, and the air is the one that acts as an insulator between these two, right?
But the strong electric fields surrounding a cloud are capable of ionizing the surrounding air and making it more conductive, and when the insulating air is transformed into conductive plasma. This shows the ability of a storm cloud's electric fields to transform air into a conductor, which also makes charge transfer in the form of a lightning bolt from the cloud to the ground or even to other clouds possible.
Definitely.
That is also the reason why we should avoid trees, because it is the tallest object here, and we all know that lightning seeks the fastest way to reach the ground.
That's correct. Electricity seeks the path of least resistance, but it doesn't always choose the tallest object because conductibility of an object also plays a significant role. As we mentioned earlier, electricity seeks the path of least resistance, which means it more likely chooses things that can be considered a good conductor.
Aha! And if we try to think trees have tissues which have water or moisture, and also because of the heavy rain, the trees are now wetter and it increases its potential to be conductor due to the wet bark that could attract the strike. That's why it is dangerous to stand under the trees because when lightning strikes it, the current may leave the tree on its way to the ground.
Yes, that's correct.
But why not on the nipa hat?
Because nipa hat don't provide any kind of protection against lightning since no specific ground exists on the open-sided shreds for the lightning to flow through. That's why the lightning may look for anything it can to be grounded, including a person.
So, it leaves us no choice but to stay inside the bus?
It is better to say that it lives as the best choice because the bus acts as Faraday cage, which is a conductive metal container that blocks any electrostatic charges and distributes them around the exterior of the cage. That's why when electricity is put into contact with the cage, it spreads the charge out throughout the cage and protects anything inside. The same thing happens to the vehicles such as cars and buses when a lightning struck. The metal frame of the vehicles acts as a Faraday cage, allowing the electricity to safely travel from the outside of the bus and leaving the people inside unharmed. As long as they're not touching metal components of the bus and the bus is fully closed up, no windows or doors opened, they are safe because the current just travels in the steel frame and goes into the ground through the tires that have direct contact with the Earth's surface.
That actually makes sense. So, the best thing for us to do is to wait for the help inside the bus while there are thunderstorms and try to make this field trip a memorable one.
And now that you were able to convince your classmates, it is better to do something that could entertain everyone. So, this field trip can be your most memorable field trip of all time rather than the worst.
So guys, who's up for some games?
Me!